Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV2. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Patrick Roberts all set for return to Celtic as Stuart Armstrong signs a new deal. Louis Moult knocks back a new contract at Motherwell. Aberdeen pick up a fine from UEFA. Yeah, just a few of the talking points as we get ready for a weekend of football across all four divisions in Scotland. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff is alongside me to talk football in Scotland with Hugh MacDonald of the Daily Mail. Delighted to have Hugh with us. It must be Friday, so we can have a real ding-dong battle on so many of the stories emerging today. And of course, as you get up on a Friday morning, you always have a wee look at the back pages. Here's how it looked in the Daily Record. Kiss your feet, of course, it's still simmering, would you believe, between Neil Lennon and Pedro Caixinha, saying that he couldn't have shown him any more respect other than kissing his feet. And of course, there's a picture of Brendan Rodgers, who was at a gala dinner last night with Sir Alex Ferguson for Street Soccer Scotland. The Sun, again, reference to Neil Lennon talking about Pedro Caixinha and the lack of respect. Reds left red-faced. This is, of course, in fact, refs left red-faced, I beg your pardon. This is about the referees getting 3 out of 5 cards wrong in the appeals process. So, again, we'll have a discussion about that. And the Daily Mail, and there you have it. Rangers training to cope with bad refs, and the new deal for Stuart Armstrong, the suggestion is it doesn't really mean that the interest is over in the Celtic player, and Neil Lennon revealing that Pedro gave him the silent treatment. This is, of course, after the match as well, when it all became evident that Neil Lennon going into the office, usually they have a chat, they'll have a cup of tea, but he feels as if he was blanked by the Rangers manager. So, simmering along nicely a week after the event, Ruffy.
Yeah, again, as we all know, that it seems to be customary that you go into the opposition manager's office and have a wee drink. But I would think in some occasions, and if things aren't going your way, you're going to go, well, I'm not going in this week. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're playing too much into it. You know, some people are good losers, some people are bad losers, some people can just put it to the side and sit there. But I don't know what it'd like to be if you're playing one of the big clubs and you get beat, to go in and be nice to somebody. I think it's a hard shift. I
mean, to be honest with you, if people don't like each other, who cares? If they don't get into the manager's room, who cares? I mean, in the last 10 years, I've heard so many people bleating on about dignity and sporting integrity. There's none of it.
But the great thing about us is it's just smashing stuff that just, you know, from a journalistic point of view, it just rolls on brilliantly, you know. There's lovely little lines in that Lenny saying he understands a bit of Portuguese, and you go, oh, marvellous. And the stuff about, you know, kissing the feet's great. I mean, I just think it's... I think the last week from the Hibs match, when we were sitting here last Saturday, from that moment, it came through. Ryan Jack's been sent off. There's a beautiful fuse was lit with that, and the explosion and the fallout of that has added to the gaiety of the nation over the last week, I think. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, it'll rumble on, no doubt. I mean, and again, we already heard from Neil Lennon saying, you know, couldn't have been any more respectful to him. And of course, he's certainly nailed anybody who was complaining about his goal celebrations. We move on. We'll have another blast, undoubtedly, if there's a powder keg in the Rangers Hearts game at the weekend too. Some of the other things that I wanted to just quickly get your thoughts on, lads, from the newspapers. The referees, 3 out of the 5, okay, they've rescinded the red cards on appeal. Video analysis, I think, will help the referees enormously. It's no use battering them all the time. You know, again, I thought Andrew Dallas a couple of weeks ago had a good game, and then all of a sudden, bang, one moment, nails him. He misses the penalty for Partick Thistle, and suddenly you look and you go, well, is it a good game for him? That's how difficult the job is for a referee.
Yeah, but I think the referees are now beginning to buy into it. I mean, I think 5 or 6 years ago, they were really digging their heels in, saying, look, I want to be the one who makes the decision. But I think now, in light of the criticism that certain individuals will be getting, and highlighted, you know, personal life and everything like that, I think it's a good thing, and I think the referees are now beginning to buy into getting the big decisions right, and it can take a wee bit of the pressure off them.
So I was against video analysis. I thought, I was at one time. I thought referees should have the right to be wrong kind of thing, you know, like just let's get on with it. But that I've abandoned and long since abandoned that position because the pressure on them is now just... Television is so precise with things now, and it's so easy to go back and do it, you know, to do it. Although there are moments, there was a game in Holland the other week, I think it was Feyenoord.
It was Feyenoord.
Where they, you know, should have got a penalty, and another team went up and scored a goal, and the referee looked at the video analysis, ruled out the goal, came back, gave them a penalty. So instead of being, you know, 1-0 went to 2-0, went to 1 each in a matter of seconds. And I think trying doing that in a Celtic Rangers game, you know.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'd rather you become used to the fact that you get the decision right. It was actually Feyenoord who had committed the offence in the penalty box and then rushed up the other end and scored. But I'd rather they got it right. It doesn't help matters, Ruffy, when you get Pedro Caixinha saying we've been training for a bad ref. You know, it's like Robbie Nielsen. You know, when Willie Collins the referee, we actually practice having 10 men in the park.
That'd be interesting to see what the training's like. When you go in the morning, this is what we're doing today. We're going to train as if the referee's not going to give us any decisions. Yeah, that's a hard one.
The other interesting thing about the panel is that I'd like to talk to the referees after the panel have adjudicated on it and see if they stick by the original decisions. Because the panel, there's only one referee in that panel of 3. And a lot of times decisions have been rescinded and refs have said, you know what? See, by the letter of the law, the laws of the game, we got that right. And they've rescinded it, but I would still stick by it. But anyway, 3 out of 5 rescinded. It gives us Jack v Gonzalez, I should say, on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about the game of the day coming up after the break. Just heading into the break, just to discuss a few of the stories that have emerged today. Of course, it was starting to gather a bit of pace over the last 48 hours that Stuart Armstrong's deal was imminent. Now, when it was all actually confirmed, I looked and I thought, 2 years? That's not exactly, you know, a real signing of intent for the long term at Celtic. For me, that 2-year deal is quite simply, we're going to be recompensed. You could be out at the end of next year.
Absolutely. But see, the interesting thing about the deal as well was how you thought, talking to Celtic supporters, you know, that it wouldn't be a disaster. It wouldn't be a disaster if Armstrong left. You know, you know, be a blow. He's a Scottish international player. He's had a great year, but there wouldn't have been. I don't think there'd been huge grief over him leaving either.
Well, can I counter that by saying to you, Ruffy, that I think the boy blossomed. I think when he was given his head in the middle of the park, I think he offered that attacking threat. He can pick a pass. His work rate was exceptional. He's just. I just think he. This season, because his head's been all over the place, people have forgotten that he really was, you know, he was top drawer for the last 6 months.
Yeah, I would say the last 4 months, and the last 4 months got him into the Scotland squad. And even when he came into the Scotland squad, it didn't look as if he was fazed by that either. I'm glad he's signed just now, and it never dragged on any longer, because Hugh's right. I was beginning to hear people saying, we don't need him. He's not that good.
Cash in.
You know.
Which they will as well. They will cash in.
Which fans do tend to do, but now he's signed.
Yeah, good. Absolutely. Here's Brendan Rodgers' take on the deal.
I'm absolutely delighted. I'm delighted for Stuart. I'm obviously delighted for all the other players here, because he's made great strides in this last season, and and he's a player that I really, really enjoy working with. So to have him here for 2 years is great for us, and like I say, it gives him a little bit of peace of mind now. Now he can really focus on his football. But certainly a key factor with any player, not just Stuart, that if you're unsure of where your future may lie or where it's going to be, then of course it can bring in sort of different emotions. But it's good for him now. He always wanted to sign, I felt. It was just a case of getting it over the line and done. So well done to him, his agents and the club for getting it organised and sorted. So now he can really push on and hopefully have another good year.
And of course the other deal which emerged over the last few hours, Hugh, has Celtic fans doing triple salcos, backflips, cuddling each other, is Patrick Roberts coming back on a loan deal.
He's just outstanding. I mean, I really think that is in terms of players coming in, that is the real peach for Celtic and their fans, because he's a game changer.
Yep, I think he'll be a big player as well for James Forrest. I think we've got somebody like that in the side. I think James Forrest could become a better player as well. But again, we know what he can do, and in Europe, I think that's probably the sway. I thought they'd lost him because he went away with Man City on that training game, but obviously things were happening behind the scenes. But as far as European football's concerned, that's the kind of player that gets the fans off their seat.
Yep, absolutely. I think that will get a lot of kudos for the Celtic board for being able to get that one over the line. One wonders what changes will be made to the Celtic side for the game against Kilmarnock. It's the early kick-off. We're on the air at 2 o'clock tomorrow, and we'll get a reaction to that game, Kilmarnock against Celtic. After the break, we are going to talk about the game of the day on the Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. It's at Ibrox. It's almost certainly Rangers against Hearts. Here's our first question for you. One year out, Ruffy, you were so close there on that one. It was surely a culture club. Should have sealed it for you.
No, not Culture Club. I remember playing Pat Jennings for Northern Ireland, and I know he was getting on there, so I thought it would be round about 83, 44.
Yeah, and amazingly, every time I think of Pat Jennings, biggest hands ever. I mean, he reminded me of Kenny Everett with brother-Lee Love. Just these huge hands, and a great goalkeeper.
I loved the way he used to come out and grab a cross with one hand.
One hand, yeah.
Nowadays all goalkeepers always punch crosses, Ruffy. What's that all about?
You're not a fan of that, are you?
It was more continental than anything else, but I think if you look at the game now, the ball's coming in so quick. It's not just like a wee floated cross that's getting pinged in. So I think it's very difficult for the goalkeepers now.
And of course, don't take any offence to it, Ruffy, because Hugh mentioned a couple of things there which were completely alien to you. One-handed save and coming out to grab a cross in the first place. Let's switch your attention. Was there too harsh there?
There are flecks on the baseball bat. Give it a good, just give it a tissue and we're
He's
fine.
the first one to admit it. Tell everybody. Tell everybody.
No, I have to. I'm going to show you a clip of the Scotland-England game at Wembley. A minute to go, and there was a cross come in and actually came out. And I did a Pat Jennings.
Did you? One hand?
One hand?
With one hand, yeah.
Is this on YouTube, Ruffy?
Yeah, I think you could catch it, yeah.
There are people jumping for their computers now. They don't believe you. I mean, tell Hugh what Gordon McQueen said to you, and you've lived by this code since you were a boy.
Yeah, Gordon McQueen said that the only way he would get Pillane for Scotland was if he could header the ball 50 yards and to not come for crosses or anything, because that was his main strength.
Just header
So I was quite happy with that.
Yeah,
why not?
Absolutely.
He wasn't a bad player either, was he?
He was superb.
Have you ever had your nose broken, Ruffy?
No, but
not yet.
You only get that when you come out for crosses.
Okay, let's concentrate on what's on offer in the Premiership for Saturday's programme and for us to discuss here tonight. Here's the fixtures. Kilmarnock Celtic, we told you before the break, that's the 12:30 kick-off. It's Aberdeen Dundee, Hibernian against Hamilton, Motherwell Ross County, St Johnstone against Partick Thistle, and of course the one that I've just admitted that we're about to discuss now is undoubtedly taking place at Ibrox. It is game of the day in Scotland from the 3 o'clock kick-offs. It's Rangers against Hearts.
We already analyze and forget what happened in Saturday. It's not going definitely to affect next game.
We know they're a good team and we know they're a good side, but we are too. We've got good players and we'll have to obviously be aware of their threats, and we'll try and exploit the areas that we feel they're weak, and we can get at them.
Tough set challenge, but we want to stay present, and we want to say that we are working hard to get our momentum, and we will keep doing for it.
He's got past the initial frame of mind that he was in, and he seems to be in a good place right now, which for us is great, because we want players of his quality and his calibre on the park, and hopefully he can, if he's called upon, or if he starts, or if he comes off the bench, that he can go out and show exactly why a club like Rangers are looking to pay for him.
Well, he's in the fold. The big question is, will he play?
I think he might, Peter. I think he might. I mean, the indications from John Daly there was that that he was in a good place. The obvious thing would be to have him on the bench and bring him on as what they call now the great cliche, the impact player, because he'll be quite. He's not had games, so he isn't match fit. But yeah, I think he'll play some part of again to what, which is an absolutely huge game for Kishinya. Absolutely huge game.
Yeah, but you say that as if there's going to be a breaking of the dam if they should lose, in two weeks back to back against both Edinburgh sides.
I think there will be a breaking of the dam. I think he's that he's that near the precipice. You've got to look at it that he hasn't bought himself any goodwill. There is no, he hasn't got a reservoir of great results behind him. You can reel it off the two comprehensive defeats by Celtic, including 5-1 at Ibrox. Being beaten by Aberdeen there for the first time since the early 90s. Finishing third in the league. The humiliation to Progress. And then the defeat last week to Hibs. There is no, he hasn't got any leeway for error at the moment.
Okay, I'll counter that by suggesting, Ruffy, that the one thing that I think might be the saving grace on this is the board might have to turn around and say, listen, he's got his team. I don't think anybody really got any credit out of coming in with, 7, 8, 9 games of the season. Last season, he inherited a side. This season, he's bought a side, and he's got a lot of players in there. He's dismantled the team that he said was the best squad that he inherited. He's now saying this one's the best squad. The problem is the board can't afford to sack him. I think you look and you say, okay, what was the manner of the game tomorrow? If it was to go against Rangers, what was the manner of the defeat? Or if it's a draw, did you see signs? I think board members usually act if there's something that just suggests the house is falling down.
Yeah, no, I think he was right in throwing the stats out there. You can't hide them. But I think this year, I think it'll be, maybe 5 or 6 games down the line. I'd still look back at that Hibs game last week, and I don't think they were out of that game by any manner of means before the player gets sent off. So that's what he'll be telling the players, and that's what he'll be telling himself. But again, as you said, defeats aren't going to help. That's why it's so important that they get something out of that game. And unfortunately for him, the something is a win. I don't think the fans would be happy with a draw, even at home. And that's what's going to happen in every game. And it's a horrible thing as a manager and a player getting into these games, knowing that your manager's under pressure, because you're obviously tense with everything that's going on. So 3 points is the only thing that cheers everybody up. 3 points tomorrow just puts a smile on everybody's face, and you move on.
You're right. I mean, one element that he's got going for is the fact he's brought so many players in. I mean, the last thing the Rangers board want to do is turn round and go, in the middle of the end of August or even into September, saying, well, we'll have to, we've got to bin the manager, we've got to bring a new manager in, and we've got to go through the whole process of getting rid of players and bring them in. You're right on that, but that's what's keeping them there, because honestly, I think otherwise there'd be real tough questions to be asked. I mean, if you hadn't spent so much money in the transfer window, why would you keep him? I mean, that Progress result has really impacted dreadfully on Rangers' ability to move forward. You know, people are trying to wash it away now. It's just one of those things, etc., etc. But the board would have budgeted, you know, and part of the budget for some kind of involvement in European football, certainly beyond one match away in Luxembourg.
Yeah, I still think this one, I think it's a huge game, Hugh. I think it will sway a lot of people's opinion, but it's another week down the line where Rangers fans will not be fooled. They'll look at the way they're playing football, you know, and keeping 11 players on the park is key. I've got to talk about Hearts, Ruffy, because they got a confidence boost last week with the win. I mean, and Don Cowie's signed an extension. He came out and he's backing John Daly for the permanent job. But every day there's been, you know, one name at the front runner. Suddenly there's another bookie's favourite. I think, you know, in the next week, you know, I think we should start to see someone who can get there and steady the ship and actually think, right, this is Hearts moving forward, because they do have a good squad.
Well, the new manager that come in will give everybody a lift. We don't know who it's going to be, but certainly when a new manager is appointed, the fans get excited, the players will be getting excited, him coming in the dressing room, see what he's got to say for himself, and it will lift the club. I don't think Hearts have kick-started their season yet. I think last week was a bit, it could have went either way, but they're looking for a big result, and they'll go there thinking they get something out of the game.
Have they got the ammunition to do that, Hugh, in your mind?
Yeah, I think they have. I think the problem with Rangers was, and we said it before the Hibs game last week. You know, some of us were very confident the Hibs would at least pose, you know, big problems and would score. I mean, I think both you and I, Ruffy, tipped Hibs to win. You know, so there'd be no reason not to tip Hearts to win tomorrow. I think it'll be a draw. But Hearts have got the ability to go there and win. They've got the attacking force, and I think they're decent in defence, decent in midfield as well. And I think the problems with Rangers still exist, and that's the full-backs are not properly positioned and they can't defend cross balls.
Okay, Hugh's gone for a draw. What are you going for, Ruffy?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a draw as well. I think in light of last week's result, I think that Hearts will go there and defend well and get a draw.
Just briefly, does a draw heap the pressure on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, because it'll almost certainly put them 5 points behind the leaders in the league.
Okay, you can give us your thoughts at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk about Aberdeen. You know about their stadium plans, but their stadium plans for Dundee as well. This is turning into a big kids game, isn't it? Look at him, he's jumping up and down.
Right.
He's got it right in 1994. I mean, I love that movie, Four Weddings and a Funeral, Ruffy. I like those movies, boy meets girl, girl meets boy, and it all ends happily ever after. If only that were true.
Yeah, I thought the best bit in that film was the best man's speech.
Yes, that was. I thought you might like that. We'll not dwell on it. Aberdeen against Dundee. A number of things here to talk about. I mean, of course, Aberdeen have thrown the gauntlet down to the City Council. We need the stadium. We want top drawer facilities. The manager's given it great gusto as well. Suddenly, Dundee have unveiled plans for their own stadium with the training parks as well.
I think it's a really positive thing, because I think we go on and on about not having enough facilities, and as soon as anybody actually puts up the idea of having facilities, obstacles are put in their way, whether it be Judy Murray at Park Care at Dunblane or Aberdeen at Kingswells. I mean, in the specific case of Aberdeen, it's really crucial now, Peter. I mean, they're now reaching a situation where Pittodrie is not fit for purpose. It's not fit for European games.
Can I ask you something? Could it be renovated to be fit for purpose? I'm just playing the devil's advocate.
Yeah, but the amount of money it would take to renovate it is huge, and it would you're almost talking about raising it and reconstructing it again, when you could go over to Kingswells and get the training facilities there, something that would help the community as well. I'm all behind the modern stadiums, getting it done. If we've got to have a sporting culture in Scotland, which I think is vital to the mental, emotional and health of the nation. We should really charging in these things.
I'm all behind Aberdeen getting a new stadium with the fabulous training facilities and for whether it be Derek McInnes or the next manager to be able to attract quality players. I'm all for it, providing Aberdeen can finance it and it doesn't harm the team on the park, because that's when it becomes painful. I hope they have it. And Stuart Mill's he's a savvy chairman and owner.
Yeah, you've got a business in there who's very, very wealthy, and he's dealing at high end. You would like to think the people who have joined the club, I think there was a couple of millionaires joined them. Was it America or Canada? A long lost supporter. And these guys wouldn't go into anything if it was going to, put the club into any state. I don't think. Well, I know for a fact they wouldn't do that.
The price tag is going to be about 50 million, and it's all going to be private money. So it's not going to be a drain in the public purse. I think, what I got an impression talking to Stuart Milne, a strong impression that it was more than doable.
Yep, okay. Fingers crossed for Aberdeen, and well done to Dundee as well. Just 3 miles away from Dens Park on the A90 is the proposed new site. Whether that gets the green light or not from the council, only time will tell. As far as the immediate future, it's up at Pittodrie, Aberdeen against Dundee. Here's Derek McInnes' take on the opposition.
It's a game for our own sake that we want to be at home to try and continue we're winning run. We've had two good wins, both home and away. So the fact that we're being home now in the league, we want to try and maximise that. But I think any time you play Dundee, they always have players that can hurt you on the day. And I think what Neil's got there is he's recruited well, and he's trying to bring a freshness to that team. But I know him and Graham Gatland well, and I'm sure they'll come up here giving their team confidence that they can get a result. So. Obviously their results haven't, certainly in the league, haven't been what they would have wanted, but it doesn't make them any less dangerous because they have got players that we know of from playing against, and some new players there that can cause us problems. So we'll be well aware of that, but again, we're at home, we want to try and impose ourselves in the game and try and be as strong as we can and bring a performance that helps us win the game.
Yep, that's to the game itself. Aberdeen have recruited well. I think the general feeling is that they've recruited well. Here's what Derek McInnes has made of all the summer signings that he's brought in that squad now.
We've always tried to improve the squad year in, year out, but the time for really assessing that and having a better call on it is at the end of the season. We've got it all to do as we do at this stage of the season. Every year, all we can do is try and be as equipped as we can be, and I'm pleased with what we've managed to do. I think when you put so much work into trying to get players, and it's not always easy. The first thing you need to assess when you want to sign players is affordability. And it's difficult to get good players to Aberdeen to improve us. And it's probably the reason why we lost a couple of players in the first place. So it's. When you see the focus on the recruitment and myself and the board to try and deliver good signings because we knew what was needed, then there's a lot of satisfaction when you manage to get those players in.
Here's a more sensible approach to this one. Can Aberdeen close the gap on Celtic?
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I think there's a possibility they could get closer. I mean, because Celtic had an almost faultless season last season. So, but if you're talking about getting within 20 points, I don't think so. I think Celtic win the league with 20.
From Aberdeen?
From Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen at the moment, to me, I mean it's early days, but Aberdeen at the moment to me are the second best team in the league.
Yeah, of course the squad is performing well. A good start in the domestic front anyway. And here's Andrew Considine's take on Aberdeen as a squad, because of course he played in another very good Aberdeen team under Jimmy Calderwood.
I think that the squad that we had when Jimmy Calderwood was here and we just got into Europe before our run in Europe, I would say was very strong. We had a number of internationalists in that squad at that time, Scottish internationalists. It was a very, very, very strong squad. But I mean, I think we've almost built it back up again. We had a couple of sort of crazy years, but with the manager's come in and done very well and brought up a probably much and such the same kind of squad. A lot of experience, some great youth as well in the squad. But I would say it's definitely up there with one of the strongest that I've been involved in.
Lovely way a player says we've had a couple of crazy years. Managerial appointments didn't quite go according to plan.
Yeah, but I think he's a big player. I think he's a wonderful player for Aberdeen. He doesn't get the same acknowledgement as the other players, but if you look at him, he's up in the box. He scores goals. Sometimes he scores hat tricks.
Steady, Ruffy, steady.
No, he did. He got a hat trick.
I know. He'll have his chest puffed out, sitting in his chair right now. Go on, Ruffy, I'm a goal scorer.
I honestly think that he is a player who's really underestimated, and I think I would have thought some English clubs might have came for him, because I think he's got something a lot of players don't have, and they have that box-to-box attitude.
Okay, what about the opposition? Well, Neil McCann's still bedding in. He's brought players in. I think the injury to Musa is a real blow to Dundee, but here's what he makes of the trip to Pittodrie.
They're a fantastic team in terms of the recruitment. Derek's done in the summer has been superb. He's replaced real high quality players with high quality players. But what I would say is, to contrary to what you said there, they do get men behind the ball. The attacking numbers, the defending numbers. So they've got a good thing going there. I think they've got belief in themselves as a team as well, and you can see that, and that provides us with a challenge. But that's what we'll be looking to do as well. We'll be looking to attacking numbers and defending numbers. So it should be a pretty entertaining match that hopefully we'll come out on top on.
I really would like to see Neil succeed there. It'll take a bit of time just for everybody to buy into his plan.
Yeah, and that's a big game for him tomorrow again. Two games in against opposition that he might have expected. Well, he would have expected to get a points total against Ross County and Hamilton, and now he's going to away to Pittodrie. So I think he'll be desperate to take anything out of that game tomorrow to try and even just get the first step of a wee building block for the season. Yeah,
well, to be fair to him, he's not moaning and making excuses about the injuries that Dundee have faced.
In a short space of time I've been here, we've now lost Musa, we've lost Randy to a hamstring injury at the weekend, we lost Rory to the last weekend's game from a hamstring injury picked up strain in Dundee United. So we've had a bit of bad luck with the new guys coming in, but listen, that could be just coming into the whole new setup. Randy coming from a different culture, Musa coming over, I think it's just been purely bad luck, and Rory having played a few games in short succession.
Yeah, bad luck's probably the best way to sum it up. But I do think there are signs there that they're playing a brand of football that the Dens Park fans will be happy with.
Yeah, well, if you cast your mind back to the game last week at Hamilton, obviously they missed penalty, they had 3 or 4 chances, they're creating chances. The goalkeeper had a couple of good saves. So we believe that he could go up there and cause them some trouble. I can't at this moment in time. I don't think all his players are bedded in yet. I can't see them going up there and winning. I think the best we would get would be a draw, but I think Aberdeen will just be too good for them.
Okay, so you're going for an Aberdeen win?
Yes.
Yeah, I just got to clarify that because we'll write them down. We're head to head this season, Ruffy. Hugh as well.
Aberdeen win. Yeah, I like the way he's recruited players. I think he's got real good quality in the front six. He's got options there, and I think Aberdeen will win.
Okay, join us after the break. We are heading to Edinburgh. We're going to hear more from Neil Lennon. It's Hibernian against Hamilton Accies. Will it be 100% record for the Hibbies from Ruffy? We'll find out after the break. Knowledge is key here. I mean, right away you were on it.
No, I knew that. I've still got that Ford Escort.
Is that right? Yeah, you're still driving it.
That's my Ford Escort, wasn't that a picture there?
It was. It was a car that I absolutely loved. I thought it was just a fantastic design. I don't know about yourself, Ruffy.
Yes, of his day.
Yeah.
I think it was way ahead of everything else.
Tell Hugh what your first car was.
First car, that was a Sunbeam Rapier or something.
Yeah, yeah. Chrysler, was it? Was that Chrysler, the Sunbeam? Or,
yeah. Chrysler,
yourself, Hugh?
Well, I never learned to drive till I was about 30, so it was a Mazda 323 was my first car. There you go.
Wow, there you have it.
What was yours?
A Mini 1275 GT and insurance that could have bought a house. Simple as that.
I actually had a Ford Escort with learner plates on it and 2 Miss Worlds in it.
Now,
there's a story.
Before we go on to Hibs against Hamilton, there are people right now, Hugh, saying to us, please don't let us hear Neil Lennon until he tells us that story.
No,
what is
I
that
was
story?
just being nice. I was just giving them a lift round to the Albany, the old Albany, from the
2 Miss
Locarno.
Worlds?
Yeah, it was a Miss Scotland competition, and I was a judge, and they were judges as well, and they were staying in the Albany, and I said I'll give you a run round the road.
Well, honestly, I mean, that's the kind of Scottish hospitality that you need. Just
the night of the road.
Well, absolutely. A kind, friendly goalkeeper just saying to 2 Miss Worlds in a kind of a George Best type, I'll give you a run around the road. That's great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
They were too happy with the L plates.
No.
Did they send out the right image, did it? Really?
No, absolutely not. What kind of car was it?
Ford Escort.
Ford Escort, magic. Brilliant, Ruffy. OK, don't forget, that full story will be told later on tonight about midnight on STV2 by Ruffy. Look at him just fixing his hair there as I was in the car with 2 Miss Worlds. What age were you?
I was about 24, 25. Mary Stavron it was.
All right, OK. Oh, names as well, who'd have thought? What happens on tour? OK, let's switch to Hibs against Hamilton. The first time, it could happen this weekend. This could be, I think, the first time since what year for Hibs to get 3 wins out of 3 in the top flight?
Oh, goodness gracious. I wouldn't take a guess. No.
It's such a good line, Ruffy. You should know, surely.
Well, it wasn't my time.
Yeah?
I don't think.
No, it wasn't. It's the first time since season 1974-75. That's how long ago it was. What? You weren't at the Hibs?
No, I wasn't. I was 82.
Okay.
That was a fantastic team, though.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, John Brownlee, absolutely.
Blackley.
Shadler, Jim
Stanton.
Black, Jimmy O'Rourke, Arthur Duncan, Edwards,
Alec Edwards,
Stanton and Jimmy Gordon. Alan Gordon. Yeah. OK, so Hibs against Accies. How do you see that one going? Are they going to get 3 wins out of 3?
You would think so. I think obviously Hamilton will try and make it difficult for them. They've got a good win under their belt last week, but I think Hibs will be on a roll. 19,000, possibly there again. You know, puts a wee bit of pressure on the players, but if you get an early goal, it makes it a lot easier.
OK.
Huge game for Hibs after last week, because Neil Lennon will be very keen to reinforce what happened at Ibrox next. He was saying to his players, Ibrox means nothing if you don't win today.
OK then, who wins the St Johnstone Partick Thistle briefly?
A draw, 1 each.
OK, OK, we're going to switch our attention now to the Premier League, because as ever on a Friday we always like to speak to our man down south, the man in the know. Ian McGarry joins us, and Ian, the only show in town, Wembley, Tottenham, Chelsea.
It is, Peter, and particularly after the contrasting results that both clubs recorded last weekend. Obviously Chelsea losing at home to Burnley, which was the shock of the weekend, I suppose. But I thought I was particularly impressed by Tottenham's very effective, very, I think, quite brutal beating of Newcastle, in the sense that they took advantage of John Joe Shelby sending off, but they never looked like losing. We all know that St James Park is a hard place to go, very fervent support. Newcastle give you a real hard game, and yet, you know, they came up with a couple of goals of real class. And so you put them together, Tottenham versus Chelsea. Add in the Wembley factor, because Tottenham failed in their Champions League campaign at Wembley last season to make any kind of positive impression. So you've got both teams needing to prove something to themselves, and to the rest of the Premier League, because, of course, in Chelsea's case, the talk is of crisis, and until they get a win under their belt, then the talk continue to be of crisis.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you, and obviously we saw West Ham move into a new stadium and never settled at all, never get anything going. Do you think Spurs are a wee bit ahead of that one?
Ruffy, I would go further. I would have said that if they were still at White Hart Lane this season, Tottenham would have won the league. I think Pochettino has got them playing some wonderful football. As I said, they're not just good on the ball, they're very good off the ball. They chase down space, they chase down their opponents, and they have a way of playing which makes it very difficult not to concede against them. They play very, very good football. And when you think you've got to 70, 80 minutes and you've not conceded a goal, you've got a touch of class from Dele or from Eriksen, and of course you've got Kane at the point to put the ball away. So I think they will be handicapped by Wembley. I noticed that Wembley is almost 200 square metres bigger pitch than the old White Hart Lane pitch. And although Tottenham have been training on a same-size pitch at their training ground, it doesn't obviously replicate the atmosphere there is at Wembley, or not in some cases. So it would be a very, very interesting afternoon Sunday, because if they do play well and put Chelsea away, then they will have confidence about Wembley. But at the same time, Chelsea are desperate to obviously get back after that defeat to Burnley at home, and will be, I think, very much up for it on Sunday. And again, if Chelsea scored first, you could see it becoming a very difficult afternoon for Tottenham. So I think you're right to say roughly about West Ham, and I think we need to factor in the Wembley scenario for Tottenham this season.
Ian, still a chunk of the transfer window to go. The Coutinho situation is the most interesting one at the moment. What's going on there?
Well, it's very confusing. Let's put it that way. Obviously, last Friday we spoke about it on the show. FSG, who own Liverpool, the ultimate arbiters of what happens at Anfield, said specifically, and it was the sentence: Coutinho will be a Liverpool player when the summer window closes. Now, that was categorical. No room for manoeuvre whatsoever. Very unusual for a club to come out and say that when the player has already put in a transfer request. What we've been hearing this week is, obviously, the Barcelona sport director said after their Super Cup defeat to Real Madrid that both the Dembele from Dortmund and the Coutinho deals were closed. Then we have a conflicting report today in the Spanish press where a different member of the Barcelona board has said that Coutinho will be very difficult to secure. Now, what I've heard and what's not being said is that Liverpool are open to negotiating agree a fee of up to £150 million for Coutinho. That's the point at which they would accept his sale. Barcelona have yet to offer that. But I'd say this, and there are always the human aspects of these stories. For the first time, I saw Jurgen Klopp give his pre-match press conference for Saturday's game against Crystal Palace, and he was being asked the same questions, and he looked like a man who wasn't sure where to go, this way or that way, or if he did say something, would it come back to haunt him? His body language was all scratching his ear, looking away from the camera, and you think that's a guy who really doesn't actually know what's going on. And given the amount of investment that the club have put into Klopp's regime and his ability in their eyes and potential to actually make Liverpool a Premier League winning club again, you would think the least thing they could do is actually keep him informed about what's happening with his best player.
Ian, we're getting to the end of the transfer deadline. Do you think there's more of the bigger clubs ready to splash the cash? I see Spurs are trying to get that centre half from Ajax. Has that went through?
I think you'll see two players come into Spurs, Ruffy. I think Davinson Sanchez from Ajax will be one of them. I think one of the most interesting transfer stories of the week has got to be Johnny Evans to Manchester City. And people have been raising their eyebrows or pouring scorn on it. I've seen Johnny Evans play for the last 12 years. He is an outstanding central defender, good with 2 feet, good on the ball, distribution excellent. Not only that, he defends like an old school defender. He puts his body in the line, puts his head where it hurts. Now, but he spent 9 years at Manchester United, won 3 Premier League titles. He knows how to do that. So why wouldn't, at 18, 20 million pounds, when, look at Man City have already paid £138 million in fullbacks alone this season. So it's £22 million for Johnny Evans is an absolute steal. And I tell you, I was at the Brighton Hove Albion Manchester City game last Saturday evening, and John Stones started in the middle of their back three. and he looked vulnerable. And yet, and there's another £52 million player in centre half. So I'm not surprised at all that Evans is on the radar, and I do believe that they'll get him. If you're looking at for a big money signing within the Premier League, club to club, I'd just keep an eye out for Alexis Sanchez going to Manchester City as well. I think there will definitely be a bid of around 60-65 million in this coming week for Sanchez, and Arsenal will have to make a decision about a guy who's out of contract next summer or where they cash in.
Thanks to Ian. Always good to get an insight into the Premier League in England. Thanks to Ruffy and Hugh for today's programme and their contribution. Join us tomorrow. Hugh will be back with us. Ruffy and Gordon Smith from 2 o'clock on STV2. We'll look at all the matches across all 4 divisions in Scotland. And of course, we'll keep our eye on the Premier League in England as well. We've got reporters at key games. And of course, there'll be no shortage of opinion and managers and players giving us their thoughts. 2 o'clock, STV2.